Smash Mouth on 100.3, the sound walking on the sun before that Pretenders off their Get Close album, and don't get me wrong. 604 with Larry Morgan giving you another one off of Beck's wonderful Modern Guilt CD. I love that thing. This is Orphans. Beck on the sound.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't realize we were on. Forecast FM. Anybody remember them? Yeah, this is the 17th February edition of Dave TV on DCRTV.com. Forecast FM was a magazine that came out back in the, this was in the 70s. This is the July 1974 edition. And for the Washington, Baltimore area. And it basically was a guide to what was on the radio back then. Lots of ads for stereo companies, Pioneer, TDK tapes, and it had a really nice scanning the dial. See that? Scanning the dial. This is what, all the different radio stations in 1974, the DC area. We had WAMU, WGTB, WBJC, WLPL, WFMM. 93.1 in Baltimore was WFMM. We had KYS on 93.9, WJMD on 94.7. Of course, PGC was on 95.5. WMOD on 98.7. WFAN Spanish was on 100.3. WWDC on 101.1. WFVA FM on 101.5 out of Fredericksburg. Of course, HFS was on 102.3, one of the few quad stations in the market, along with WJMD on 94.7. WCAO FM on 102.7. Quad WGMS on 103.5. WSMD were the calls on 104.1 back then. WKTK in Quad, Progressive Rock on 105.7 out of Balto. WXRA on 105.9, WMAR 106.5, WEZR. Those are the old calls for for the now WJFK on 106.7, WMAL FM 107.3. And remember the old WEER? There's a guy named Bob in Fairfax. He used to be a DJ on there. He's got a really cool audio setup at his home in Fairfax. I check him out every now and then. But he used to be a DJ on the old WER. Remember they were progressive rock. I used to listen to them 107.7 when I was driving down to college a lot. And of course WFSI on 107.9. So really cool flashback to the FM news. Oh, WAMU will provide current coverage on a delayed to primetime basis of any activities surrounding the House Judiciary Committee's inquiry into the impeachment of President Richard Nixon. Wow. WASH has been awarded the Douglas Southall Freeman Award for public service through broadcast journalism. Okay, WFMM, remember we told you that was 93.1 in Baltimore, the now WPOC? They've requested a change in call letters to WPCB. PCB? I don't know, that's kind of a weird set of calls. So anyhow, interesting, the Forecast FM. And one of our quick radio memories today, WTEM Sports Radio. I don't know, funny little basketball hoopy thing here. I don't know what you do with it. I can think of some other things to do with this, but I don't think they'd allow me to say them on the internet. The internet police would probably be out. Washington Post rumblings today. Oh, let's see. Lisa DeMarais does a big piece today on how IBM put one of their computers, Watson, up against a couple of stars from who earned a lot of money on the show Jeopardy way back when. Okay, Interesting, the placement of the story, front page, top of the style section, and it just so happens, just coincidentally, IBM takes out a big full-page ad in the A section to tout the same thing, that how the IBM computer Watson challenged Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter on the TV show Jeopardy. Yeah. Coincidence, big full-page ad in the paper, and a front-page write-up from Lisa DeMarais. I think it's just a coincidence. I don't think we should read anything too much into that. Also, you know, I used to work at some newspapers, community newspapers. I used to work at the old Reston Times and all that. And one of the things I was always told when I worked there is never put a news article and an ad about the same news article on the same page. You know, the Washington Post sports section has a big article here on forward Charlie Davis joining the DC United soccer team, which is fine. And then right below it, there's a big picture. There's a big ad of Charlie Davis. You know, so there's the picture and there's the ad on the same page. I don't know. It just looks funny when you do that. You know, we were always told in our old newspaper, you know, if you're going to run an article, don't put an ad about that business or whatever, or that person on the same page. It may not be connected, but it looks stupid. No more dumb stupidity things from the Post. 3 more quickies from our Dave's record collection. Now, this is an interesting mix. Okay, I really like this mix. First, we have Doris Day. Doris Day's greatest hits. You know, I always liked Doris Day. She's a great vocalist. She's a wonderful comedian and an actress. I love her movies with Rock Hudson. She's done some really cool stuff. Definitely underrated talent, I think, in Hollywood. And really cool stuff here. And then, of course, the soundtrack to one of the greatest movies of all time, The Day the Earth Stood Still, which actually was set in Washington. If you want to see Washington in the 1950s, when there were almost no black people in Washington and where almost everybody wore a suit, even when they're out walking around the mall, it's an interesting movie to check out what Hollywood's version of real Washington was back then. And of course, what better to mix with Doris Day and the soundtrack to an old 50s movie than Dead or Alive. Yeah, this works. Cool stuff on this. I just love You Spin Me Around Like a Record, man. I think that is one of the greatest dance songs ever made in the history of the universe. What's on the big news today? Sad news to report, Awake, Alive, and Jewish ends its radio run. This show was on the radio for 31 years on a whole variety of stations, the last being WUST 1120, and apparently they're pulling the radio run. It will no longer be heard on the airwaves. Hopefully they will continue the online podcast, which is what they plan to do. I'd like to do a shout-out to Michael Hoffman, who's a former co-host of the show and also helps produce it. Really cool guy. And
100.3 The Sound with the plaintive and distinctive guitar of Santana. Carlos Santana just making that baby cry. Samba Pati. Before that, Beck off of Modern Guild, an album co-produced actually with Beck by Danger Mouse. And on that track, featuring the singer-songwriter known as Cat Power. That was called Orphans. Larry Morgan here at 612, and it's not that often that you get to meet a living legend, but yesterday I had the opportunity, the privilege, to interview B.B. King.
Wow!
Great blues guitar.
Oh!
And it was...
I'm getting some really good reception today on this home radio.
He's not only got...
FM signals are coming in from, 3,000 miles away.
One of the best he's
Wow.
ever done. A studio record, which...
I do a cheap little radio I bought at Bed Bath & Beyond a while back. It's one of those radios that's supposed to look like an old radio, but it really isn't. But damn it, this thing gets great reception.
About the rock and roll guitarist who is featured in the next set
Woo.
of World Class Rock coming up on the Sound.
For your end of summer celebration.
Well, folks, okay, 8 DC area borders to close as Borders declares bankruptcy, and so we're going to be losing stores in 2 of them in DC, Tyson's Corner, Bowie, Laurel, Kensington, which is really White Flint, Winchester, and Stafford. So, another brick and mortar retailer bites it up. Okay, folks, that's it for Dave TV today on DCRTV.com. We'll be looking back on some more, then revealing it probably from Forecast FM in the future, and some other cool stuff. Procol Harum. Wow, remember them?
California grown
Cool band. A whiter shade of black, a blacker shade of white. That is cool. Whiter shade of pale.
12-ounce 12-pack selected varieties and get 3 of equal or lesser value free.
Don't forget to help support DCR-TV, by the way. We depend on donations. $39 gets you a full year of DCR-TV Plus, where we've got a whole bunch of cool graphics, jingles, histories, tribute pages galore. So check us out, davetv32.mp4. And thanks a lot, folks, and have a great weekend. And don't forget to stay tuned.